how's it going, Vikings fans? Welcome into Skol Experience with GG Sports Podcast, Minnesota Sports Talk. And tonight we're joined by John. As we like to do with our guests, we'll push it over to you for a little bit here. Tell us a bit about yourself, what you do for some of the viewers that may not know you, and then we'll get into talking about some Vikings.
Cool. How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me. I'm John Boyd. I host the Daily Skol podcast. You can find that on Spotify under NFL on Stadium Rant podcasts. You can also see me live. It'll be tomorrow this week, but usually on Tuesdays on YouTube. Stadium Rant called Necessary Roughness. That's just an NFL show we do weekly. It usually runs about an hour, and it's just kind of a weekly recap show. And my co-host Nick and I kind of talk all things NFL. But as far as my written work goes, you can find that on stadiumrant.com/Minnesota Vikings. And I also contribute to Last Word on Sports with some written work. But otherwise, my Twitter ad's right below me as well, and that's where I do a lot of my chirping.
All right. Cool.
Another question that we always like to ask people too is just, what is your journey with becoming a Viking fan? Like, where did it start? How did it become? All that good stuff.
As far back as I can remember, I was one of us who wasn't left with a choice. So I was just I've got a baby picture in a Brad Johnson jersey, So.
Brad Johnson.
Yeah. So as far back as that, his first stint with the Vikings.
Right.
But yeah, so a big Vikings family, and yeah, I'm kind of just keeping it going. I've got my kids wearing purple on their birthdays, so we're letting it ride.
Heck yeah, man. Mm-hmm. That sounds about right. That's what I'll be doing.
Much. All right. So biggest news of today, obviously.
Shout out to Skol real quick. Thanks for hopping in, man. Good to see you again. All right, Casey, what's up?
Oh, we got Minnesota Sports Talk in here.
I don't know who that guy is.
Yeah, who's that? Dude?
I'm trying to pump up the numbers, man. These are rookie numbers.
Ola Scola.
Hey, Bandito, hey.
What's going on, man?
It's been a while.
Thanks for hopping in. Justin, thanks for hopping in.
Yep, Justin.
Appreciate the
All
viewership.
Right, let's get right into it, though. The press conference.
Yeah, obviously, you watch it. There's a few things. Not a lot to take out of it. Obviously, there's just introductory stuff, getting the media getting to know Brianflores. But there was a couple big notes. The biggest thing, I'm surprised it took until literally the last second of the press conference for someone to ask, "Are you playing 3-4?"
Yeah, I know.
Which he responded with, "Who we playing?" And pretty much he said basically yes, but it's also going to be kind of dependent on matchup, which is a good thing because John, I'm sure you're like everybody else. That was probably the thing that was missing the most last year, where it felt like we were just playing the same vanilla defense all the time, trying to fit players that weren't fitting into a certain scheme. And it sounds like Flores is going to come in and basically change that, which would be great.
Yeah, it was a lot of square peg, round hole, I think.
Yep.
And I think he's going to get the right shapes where they
right. That's what we got to hope for, at least, because it definitely wasn't, like you said, wasn't like that last year. So.
Mm-hmm.
Early on in that press conference, one of the greatest things I thought he said, and I'm warming up to him. Suck at all those haters that said that nobody wants to come coach at Minnesota. He basically gave up an opportunity to be a head coach with a quarterback. Everybody says better than ours. No, he came to become defensive coordinator for us, thanks to his 3 sons that know how to gritty. Appreciate that, man. But suck it to those haters that said nobody wants to come to Minnesota because the roster is so shitty. So hey, I'm warming up to him just for the fact that he said early on in the press conference that, hey, we are going to put these guys in positions. We are going to put them where they're successful, instead of forcing them, like you said, John, in a square peg and a round hole. I think that is what I wanted to hear, and he said it.
Yep.
Suck it, haters.
Yeah, suck it, haters. That and just him coming in and double down on this idea of him being an aggressive play caller. I know they mentioned him in Miami and seeing if they're talking about whether like the Miami thing was like a system thing, or it was just right for that team at that time, or if he's just an aggressive player or play caller, and he says he's aggressive by nature. Obviously, from what we saw last season, we want the complete opposite of that, which is aggressive play calling. So another question I have is, so we know we're going to come in and be aggressive. We know we're going to be a 3-4. A big question is Danielle Hunter. A lot of people were talking about how, if we're 3-4, do we trade Danielle Hunter or do we keep him around? Team keep him around. I think especially with the way Flores talked about using our players to like whatever works best for them, the circle, the right pegs in the right holes, like you said. I feel like that's what he can do for Danielle Hunter. What do you all think about Danielle Hunter now with the 3-4 being confirmed?
John, go ahead, take it away.
Yeah, I don't think it changes a ton for him one way or the other, just because of, and I know Donatel said they were going to be multiple, and that was like, that was one of the words in his introductory presser. But I think Flores,
it's such a weird word. But
yeah,
I know what he's saying. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. But I think Flores' scheme is actually going to be multiple. And for that reason, there's going to be so many different roles and so many different spots that he can put everybody along the front, that I think he's going to be able to get Danielle in an advantageous position as often as he can. And they'll go to, they'll have even front sub packages, I'm sure they'll have some 4-2 nickel.
Right.
And when they go to like a little dime package or something like that, that's obvious passing situations. They'll still have those 3 down linemen hand in the dirt, and then the 2 linebackers most of the time. And wherever he lines up, the thing about Flores is they're also going to play games up front. There's going to be stunts. They're going to cause some confusion on that offensive line a lot more than Donatel's pressure packages. So I think that's going to be good for Danielle to kind of even get him maybe some free run at times. He was seeing a lot of double teams last season when, hey, we're going to send 4 and drop 7 and see what you guys can do. I mean, he was getting that double team a lot. So I think it's going to help him out, get some more one-on-ones. I think he's going to be schemed up some more one-on-ones. And I think he's going to keep his hand in the dirt pretty often. I think the people who clamor about him dropping in coverage too often, where he wasn't actually, I mean, he wasn't great, obviously, but he was pretty passable in coverage for an edge guy. But obviously that's not necessarily his strong suit, and I'm sure Flores wants to gear him more towards that. So my guess is it's closer to the role we saw Danielle have under Zimmer than it was last year, which I think people will be happy about.
Yeah, and like, I don't know, it's just the marrying of the pass rush and the cornerbacks, which I feel like was a lot of the issue. Is Donatel's system was all about get pressure on the quarterback so that he doesn't have time to get the ball out. Where he had the quarterbacks had time to get the ball out, and we played soft. Like it's just it's absolute disaster scenario, and I think that's the biggest thing is find ways. So and that was a big thing. Like after the first week, offensive coordinators like, okay, so if we stop Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter, they can't get to us with anybody else, and their corners play 7 to 10 yards off. So as long as we limit those two, we'll have the entire field open. And guess what? All season long, have the entire field open.
Those short ones, the short slants, man, those were killer all season long. Just every single time. I do want to shout out Justin, Purple and Gold for days. Hey, y'all, help the boys out. Hit the like button. Yeah, I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is.
By the way, we have a show tomorrow, Purple and Gold for Days. We got Under the Lights, and we're bringing on Dante from East Coast Gridiron, who went to the Senior Bowl and had press credentials. So we're going to ask him all about who he saw there.
Awesome. Yeah. And then Bandito Skol, #Skol. I'm here for the raffle. Just kidding. So what he's talking about is we are giving away a Justin Jefferson rookie card. All you have to do is put #Skol in the chat to have a chance to win this. All we ask is for you to subscribe to our channels, GG Sports Podcast, Minnesota Sports Minnesota Sports Talk. Go find John on John. What was all of the stuff that you like to do, or all the stuff you're doing?
Daily Skol podcast on Spotify under NFL on Stadium Rant. Necessary Roughness on YouTube.
Perfect. And of course, like the video, just like Justin was saying, it helps the algorithm, helps us out, gets more people in here for us, which we are definitely appreciative of. All right, so.
Hey, Jamie, one quick thing. If I type hashtag Skol and I win, you can redo it, right?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm going to hashtag Skol the hell out of this right now. Here we go.
All right, yeah. Hashtag Skol. We
There
got to
you
keep
go.
them comments coming. Paul, what's going on, man? He actually won our Mondays. He's won like 3 or 4 from us right now. He's by far our best winner. Jim Sal too. These guys are always in here. Appreciate you guys. David Mickelson, thanks, brother. You're in here too all the time. We appreciate everything big time here. But yeah, man, I mean, Brian Flores, man,
let's jump to a question here. How about that? I mean, in line with Brian Flores, what cornerback takes a big step up with his coaching? John, you got any thoughts on that one?
Andrew Booth.
I feel like a lot of people have given up on Andrew Booth after this first season. I know I've heard a couple people say.
I know one person that gave up on Andrew Booth.
There's a couple people. Well, it was mostly one person, and then other people agreeing to him in the chat. Probably mostly Evil to Hope, but he's not in here actually. Where the heck is he?
He'll be here.
I don't know. It's too early to give up on Andrew Booth for sure. I mean, he played 2 games pretty much. Obviously, they weren't great, but he's a rookie. And a lot of people like a Caleb Evans. We made a video actually that just came out today about the cornerbacks. And a Caleb Evans wasn't playing great football earlier on. He ended up having a really good game against the Bills, I think it was. And he kind of had a good stretch before he got injured. But it takes time to accumulate to the NFL. So Andrew Booth, he was thrown out there after injury. His injuries, that can be a real concern. I'll give people that on the injuries. Hopefully he needs to stay healthy. You can't do anything if you don't stay healthy. But
what was his last injury?
It was a meniscus tear.
Meniscus.
So it had nothing to do with his hernia or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is
but also news. but that's the thing. Like if you talk about the injury thing, if the guy wasn't injured all the time, they were a surefire first round pick. So that was kind of the biggest thing with him is he had the first round talent, just he dropped because of the injuries, and dropping only to the second round when you've been hurt pretty much every year since high school says a lot about the talent.
A lot of people said best ball skills in the draft.
Yeah, and I say that every single time on
really
here.
Good.
Yeah,
leaping. He has like 38-inch vert. He had hands. He has ball skills.
His ball skills. He looks like a wide receiver when the ball's thrown up. It looks like he's the one that's the wide receiver, and that's what I liked about him so much. And that's what I still think about. I still think he has that talent. We didn't get a chance to really see it yet, but there's no question he could go into next season. Not to mention how hyped he was in training camp and stuff. Obviously, it's not the first time we've had that hype. We've seen it with Irv Smith the last couple of training camps, and we didn't get to really see him live up to that. But
I think it's Irv Smith's breakout year.
Yeah. It could be. It could be. I'm still banking
on another team. On
the right
team,
price. I'll take him for a tight end.
I think his dad follows me on Twitter. I shouldn't.
Yeah, I know he follows us too, actually.
With Booth though, it's so much more like I think in the Donatel system, he was thinking way more than he should be allowed to. I think that he's very reactionary. He's a little jumpy, but I think you get him into a system like this where it's like, hey man, go punch a little bit and trail this guy, stay on this, go punch, stay on this guy's hip for, maybe it's 3 seconds instead of 6
right.
This season, first of all, but also giving him a little bit more, having him move a little bit more downhill. They'll probably play some off man, but it's not going to be, it's not going to be 7 off and backpedaling at the snap.
Right.
It's going to be much less, hey, I got to stay conscious of my zone responsibilities. I got to pass this guy off. I got to keep my eyes this way. I think it'll be a lot more of him either, sticking to a guy's hips, or he'll be able to keep his eyes on the quarterback and make a bit of a play, because it's just going to be so many more pressure packages, not only more guys coming, but more unique pressure packages.
Right.
That should have the ball coming out quicker to allow him to jump some quick outs in the flat. It'll allow him to play a little bit more like he did in college. So
yes, yeah.
One of the things about bringing pressure, you may have a quarterback that can handle the shit out of pressure, but can his young receivers, can his young running back, can his tight end, can his young lineman handle the pressure? There's 11 guys on line, and if 3 or 4 of them don't know, or one doesn't know what the hot route is, if that is, or doesn't see that guy coming.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're not just pressuring the quarterback; you're pressuring, everybody on that.
And without pressure, those guys play football their entire life without any pressure. And if they have all day, any of them they can obviously make any play they want.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't
like Daniel Jones.
Yeah, you guys.
It was nuts. It was nuts to see him not fake the handoff or hand it off, and just because he knew the guy was blitzing, because we didn't discuss shit the whole game.
Right.
And you see the guy blitzing, and he goes, "Well, I'm just going to throw it to the guy and that guy just stops and looks and catches it."
Yeah, I know.
I mean, we look like fools.
It was bad.
In that Giants
game. Pretty bad.
Yeah. So when Brian Flores called the defense in the Super Bowl against the Rams for the Patriots, before that game in the meeting rooms, Bill Belichick said to him and the rest of the staff, if we show, and talking about Jared Goff, they said if we show something he hasn't seen before, he's going to shit in his pants. And that's something that the Vikings staff did not do to anyone last year.
No.
Clean pants on the other side.
Clean pants on the other side.
Not the goal.
And I mean, those first 2 weeks, it looked kind of good. I think that might have been a preparation issue on both the part of Green Bay and maybe even Philly. The defense looked kind of good against Philly. Gave up 24, could have been worse. Mm-hmm. Offense was sputtering, but like after that, it was just over and over. Like, hey, it's going to be one of a few different things. And we're not running Legion of Boom cover 3. You can't just call it and see what happens.
Right.
So it was too, the game plan was way too rigid. And like, I don't know if you've seen the Flores 7-0 look where he's got, 7 guys right across the line of scrimmage, just mugging the line. And, however many of them come, you have no idea, but there's so many things he does. Even if you don't send that pressure, if you don't send, he was smirking at the 0 question in the presser, they're not, maybe it's 0, maybe it's not 0.
Yeah.
I mean, you're creating, you're disguising pressure. You're
making all those.
Yeah, it seemed very obvious every single time we were going to bring pressure.
Yes.
Like we bring one guy it'd always be our 4 guys at the line or something like that. Otherwise, we'd have like one more, and then we'd always
Harrison
rush that
Smith
guy.
is only the second time he's been at the line of scrimmage. I wonder if he's going to blitz.
I know. That's what I'm excited about is Harry, man. I'm excited to see what Harry does with Flores. I know that's people are talking about what vets are going to be back, what vets aren't.
I think more are now that Flores is here.
Yeah, especially the ones like Daniil Hunter and Harrison Smith, specifically Harrison Smith. We were talking about.
I think,
we're talking about the cornerbacks that Flores will help the most. I think out of any player on defense, I think Flores is the perfect kind of coach for Harry. Just because we didn't see a lot of. We just did like a PFF thing with all the safeties as well, and we saw. I think the total pressures from Harrison Smith was like 4 or something like that. And that's way too not enough. I guess it's just not close enough to a guy who specializes in pass rush. I think he is one of the best safeties in the entire league since he's been in the league at doing that. So to not see him be able to play in that way, I think was a huge disappointment. And I think it is a reason why a lot of people probably knock Harrison Smith to some extent for this last season. I know he's getting older, but I think I still think he's got it. And I think Flores is going to be the guy that uses him probably to his best ability, probably even better than how Zimmer did.
I wanted to ask one more question about corners, since we talked about that a little bit before we move on here. Obviously the thought process is corner is a big need in the draft. John, I want your thoughts on this. I know me, Jamie, and Dave have talked about this a lot. So do you think is corner the number one first round pick need, or because it sounds like Patrick Peterson's not coming back. Do you bring back a guy like Duke Shelley and then hope? I guess hope isn't the right. But also, kind of hope that Flores can get the most out of a Cam Dantzler. Hopefully your 2 rookies in Caleb Evans and Andrew Booth from last season make big steps. Sign a couple guys in free agency, maybe take a guy late in the draft, but spend your higher picks on the trenches or something to maybe toughen up your defensive line. Because I feel like that's the biggest weakness. I just don't think outside of the Za'Darius and Daniil or whoever, I don't think the middle of that defensive line had enough firepower, enough strength or power to affect things. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are. Biggest need in the draft. Is it corner or is it a different position? What would be your thoughts?
So I think the biggest roster need is corner. Both from we need bodies at corner. There's 3 that'll be under us, under contract going into the season, but also from a talent standpoint. Just for the fact that the talent we do have is so unproven. Mm-hmm. If the Duke of Shelley comes back, I'm all for it. But I think more so because there's also great cornerback depth in the draft. Mm-hmm. The mid-round depth at the cornerback position is pretty strong. I think you could get some good talent there, and I think it's worth spending a draft pick or 2 on. I do not think it's a round 1 priority necessarily, because I think the best course of action to kind of round out the defense is to spend in free agency on cornerback guys like Jonathan Jones from New England, Cam Sutton from Pittsburgh, a couple of Flores guys who are familiar with it. They're close to 30, but good man corners who could kind of help usher in the new scheme and help some of those young guys grow into it. But I think we've got basically some fresh draft picks at corner coming into this new scheme. And they're hardly any more veteran than they were at the beginning of last season when you consider the scheme change as well. And the pretty limited snaps they both got. Caleb Evans got more snaps, I think, than Booth. But it's something where I think as like an off-season umbrella statement, I think that cornerback is. But as far as the draft goes, I think we're actually better suited spending on veterans at cornerback. And yeah, I think go trenches early on. Or if the receiver the front office is in love with falls at 23, if you're sticking and picking, maybe take them. Dave, you just did a video on Zay Flowers. I'm in the honeymoon phase with Zay Flowers right now.
We're gonna dive into him in a little bit here, I think. Right? We got some slideshows for 5 draft prospects so far that we're gonna dive into a little bit. Purple Pain Forums. Thanks for hopping in here. We haven't seen you in a while. It's been seeing you on Twitter. I know you're watching us. I know you're watching all of us. Thanks for jumping in. Again, just like Dave says, make sure to type hashtag Skol to win. We are giving away a Justin Jefferson rookie card. Just hashtag Skol in the comments. Super easy. All we ask is for you to subscribe to our channels and for sure like this video so we can win this battle against the YouTube algorithm, which is not an easy one to do. So
Hulk smash the YouTube algorithms.
Hulk smash the YouTube. I like that. I didn't even know you use that.
That's what I do.
How about we do that? So we went. So with the Flores introduction, it's kind of and the Super Bowl over, it's kind of gives you that feel like, all right, now let's go on with this offseason. Obviously, we're going to be diving into free agency, which we've all been talking a lot about. But I say we can start turning our heads towards the draft a little bit. So let's go through some of Dave's. I know Dave wants to jump or to kind of go through some of these players that he's been looking into and kind of get some opinions on that. But yeah, let's jump into it.
And we were right before we transitioned to this, we were talking about the trenches and the offensive line trenches or the offensive trenches. Definitely
my first 2 guys, man.
I'm a big John Michael Schmitz guy, and it's not just because I'm a Gopher fan. It's just that offensive line has always been basically it's a staple of Minnesota football. And this guy has been a part of it for what, 6 years? Was he a 5th or 6th year senior this year? 5th year, right?
I
thought he was one of those guys that came back.
Yeah, it was a COVID year thing. Right? I think it's a COVID year thing.
Mm-hmm. But either way, I think this guy would be awesome.
No, he's fantastic. I know he really brought up his draft stock during the Senior Bowl. I think he might have been the player that everyone was talking about the most, to be honest.
Yeah, they said there's many people said that he had the best
Senior Bowl. Yeah. I really like him.
The practices.
I don't know if I personally want to pick a center in the first round. I don't know. I think I like John's idea with the wide receiver. If there's someone that we like there, I haven't done my due diligence yet, but man, if we can get that wide receiver 1B, high end wide receiver 2 on the other side of Justin Jefferson.
I mean, I'd have been fine with Jameson Williams at 12 last year. But
there's a lot of those wide receivers that actually, looking back, like George Pickens, even Jahan Dotson, Christian Watson a little bit. He was looking all right later on in the year, you know. He still dropped that ball, so that was kind of embarrassing. But
well, and it's like when I think about the defensive needs with Flores, like I just think about the personnel, especially in like the front seven that he's used in New England and Miami. Like it was a lot of pretty unsung kind of guys where he and whoever else was on that staff identified certain things they did well and used them for that. I mean, they held the Rams, one of the better offenses. 2018 Rams were a great offense. Held them to 3 points in the Super Bowl, you know, and their front would be like Adrian Claiborne, you know, Adam Butler, John Simon, you know, like just these guys who, and I mean, Dante Hightower and Kyle Van Noy were some dudes, but it wasn't like this star-studded defense where it's like, we need to get Flores talent so he can do what he wants to do. Like, I think he's going to be able to identify the types of roles he needs to fill with, you know, not necessarily premium assets. Like, I don't think he'll need to spend huge money to get his guys in the building. I don't think he'll need to spend super high draft capital to get his guys in the building at the expense of other needs. So I think, I think first round, get the best player you can get your hands on. I mean, I could see a trade down just to get a little bit more draft capital, but come on.
There's people have him in the, you know, the high second round too. I think that we'll see how he does in the
well, it's a lot. His age is going to come into it. 24, right? That's how old he is. 23, 24. Obviously that's old for coming into the draft. So that could be something that drops.
I don't think it's as serious a problem for linemen though.
Yeah, probably not, because they can last quite a bit. Still, I'm sure some people I don't think he's going to be a second rounder. I think he's doing a great job bringing up his stock. He already kind of had that going into the Senior Bowl, and he's kind of just grown on that. Well, obviously, we'll see. The combine can just throw a wrench in pretty much everything potentially, but
there are a couple other centers on the draft that I haven't really dug into yet, but plan on it that you can get later. And I think one might be a pretty good find.
Notre Dame kid.
What's up?
The Notre Dame kid. Yeah, there's a couple good centers, but Schmitz might not just be center one. He might be like the best interior offensive lineman in
true.
A lot of teams' measurements right now.
It sounds it doesn't look like this is a huge offensive line draft. Like, I feel like we've been seeing quite a bit the last few years as far as like tackles. Like, you'll see like 5 tackles go in the first 15 picks or something like that. It doesn't look like this is going to be that kind of year for the offensive line. Other than like Schmitz, I mean, it seems like people are starting to hype him up to be one of the best, even though we heard about Garrett Bradbury too, but one of the best centers in the last like 10 years or 5 years, just one of those once in a while talent at that position. But we did see that with Bradbury, and that hasn't really rolled out into the way we hoped. But
I want to shout out a couple comments here. This T. Higgins might be traded. Should Minnesota bite? I wish.
I would,
but
what do we have to trade?
AJ Brown trade.
He's going to a place where they will then sign him to first round money, and we're not going. Or I mean, number one overall wide receiver, like number one wide receiver money, and we ain't going to be able to afford that.
Yeah,
I would love it.
And
I would love it. But
I think JJ just mentioned that he wants, which I'm not surprised, pay the man, but he wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. So there's going to be a lot of money going to him. So I can't imagine us being able to pay T. Higgins, especially if I know Cincinnati would rather not get rid of him. So he's probably asking a lot too much for them. He's probably asking too much from us as well, though that would be pretty beast. Yeah, because T. Higgins is a stud, no question. But T. Higgins is another guy who is second round pick?
Yep.
Something like that. I know we don't have a second round pick this year, but I mean, he's just another example of you can get good wide receivers later in the draft, second round. Armand St. Brown, he was like third round, I think.
He was the 14th receiver taken.
Yeah, 14th receiver taken.
And then we got that
St. Brown is one of my favorite.
He's
St. Brown is one of my favorite receivers.
Destroyed Diggs in the Pro
A lot of
Bowl.
people are comping Jackson Smith and Jigba to Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Okay.
I would like. I wonder who I have next on that list.
But hold up, one thing here though is, I mean, if like John says, we prioritize corner in free agency, then I think this would be like the perfect draft right here from Andrew. First and second round to play. Boy, we won't get a second round pick, unfortunately, unless we trade up. But get a center that can take on a big DT, and then I would also say get a big DT that can take on the opposing center, and then we'd be perfect and set to go.
That'd be my third person.
KJ was fifth, I think, fifth or sixth.
I want to say fifth.
Yeah. I think KJ
I know I wanted
fifth.
Tyler Johnson really bad, but that hasn't really worked out for him either. Even though
I wanted Tyler Johnson so bad.
Oh, I was asking for it, and then he got picked like 2 picks before us or something, and we picked.
And Winfield, I was like, awesome.
Winfield was a for sure. That one we missed out on.
God.
The whole fan base wanted him, man.
Yeah, that was terrible. I think it was Gladney we took a few picks before.
May he rest in peace, of course.
Of course.
All right, so you got
KJ Osborne was 5th round, 31st overall. Jason Smith and the Jigba. So, what the hell is he doing there? I doubt that for you, John.
Yeah.
I don't see it. This guy would be tough to pass up if he's sitting there at 23.
I think so. I haven't done my due diligence, like I've already said. I will do that.
Dude's sick.
But this guy has so much talent, and the thing that gets with me, a lot of people talk about he has like a lack of speed. That's what people are saying.
I got him as a 4.48 on one of these sites.
Yeah, that's what I have a feeling he's going to be surprised. He's going to be like Justin Jefferson. He's going to surprise people with his speed at the combine. But the reason why I think that is I saw an interview with him, Garrett Wilson, and Chris Olave, and they said that he's the most athletic out of the three. So I was like, well, shit. I mean, look at those. Like, those guys came in and they were two of the best. Arguably, I think Wilson ended up winning. No.
Yeah, he did. It
was Wilson.
You won Offensive Rookie of the Year? Mm-hmm. So he ended up winning that. A lot of people thought it should have went to Olave. And then I think I was questioning if Purdy was the one who ended up taking it. Or
and
not.
They say he's the best out of the three of them. In his sophomore year, he set, Ohio State records. Chris Carter's records, if I'm not mistaken, or of receiving yards and receptions as a sophomore.
Yeah. And he's more of that.
Was he hurt this year though? Was he the one?
Yeah, he didn't. He only played. He only did like 5 catches for like 43 yards or something like that, and then he sat out the
he's
playoffs.
That guy. Mm-hmm. He's that guy.
It was a hamstring injury.
He's a beast.
And that's what's potentially having a guy fall to us.
Right.
It's like Diggs getting hurt all through school. It's like Jalen Naylor, the next second coming, the purple. I'm really selling Jalen Naylor, but he got hurt. It's like that story, but at least Jackson had that one season that just showed what he's capable of when like a Diggs didn't.
Yeah, I like him a lot. What do you think about Jackson, John?
Yeah, I like him. I don't know if it's like, it's probably not going to be something where we have our pick of the litter at 23. But there are some receivers I like. Well, I like for the Vikings. I like Flowers a hair more, but I like JSN because he's all the knocks on him are the classic ones that I think get overblown.
Right.
Like it when people get caught up in the draft cycle and they start overanalyzing things, I think sometimes you can sort of turn a blind eye to just
mostly production a lot. It's a lot of production. Like you just forget production a lot, and you just go into
the thing that
too short. He has small hands. Kenny Pickett last year.
Yeah.
Kenny Ball. He threw 50 touchdowns or whatever, but he has small hands. And then obviously we saw him progress throughout his season last year. But yeah, you see all those little things. And speed's another one where there's a guy who didn't even produce much at all. And then all of a sudden he runs like John Ross, who runs like a 4.240, and he goes above everybody else. And then you let these guys that didn't impress in that area as much drop. I agree. That's why I always look at that too. When you see these really good guys who have really good production, and all of a sudden through, especially the combine, you see them start dropping. Those are the guys like, all right, if we have a chance for him, we got to take him.
Well, look at Justin Jefferson. Like, oh, he's only a slot guy. He's not going to be able to play outside receiver. He's just going to be a slot receiver his whole career.
Jackson's the same deal here. They played him like 85% of the time in the slot, or 83 or something like that. However, I mean,
it's like
the thing that stands out for me is this guy is like the Sandman. He literally lulls people to sleep and just busts by them, sets them up. Like there's a route where this guy, he just says he just let the cornerback go, and then he kind of peeled off. And he used it and gave him open space. He's one of those receivers that, makes himself get open by forcing that guy in and then just peeling off at the last second. You remember like with a Randy Moss where you just pick up his hands at the last second and catch the ball, drop in. I mean, he's that kind of intelligence type of receiver, and just he gets himself open. And then in the other thing that makes him I like him more is that he can be explosive. I've seen him set up receivers where he just lulled them and then just burnt by them.
Kind of like a prime Adam Thielen almost, because Thielen had that ability too.
There's a lot to that because when you see highlights of Adam Thielen in his prime, he is just making these guys look silly like they're on skates.
Right,
this is what this guy can do, I think.
And we have room for a slot receiver regardless. So especially that's what we need next year for our offense.
I think this guy can play anywhere. He's not a slot. I think
yeah. But even if
I think we need that.
Was a slot, it would still be like we could still use that. I know we kind of need that speed deep threat, but I also think we need that possession slot type of guy too. If we can get someone that can do both, obviously that's great. But
I mean, or if Jalen Naylor can develop into that.
He will.
Deep field.
He's our number 2.
What are you gonna say, John?
Oh no, and Dave made a great point with JSN. That's something I've noticed too. Is late hands, which is a really great big thing for receivers. That won Justin Jefferson a couple of balls this season. I mean, think about the one that got us to like the 3 against Buffalo that right before the Dalvin biffed it.
Went right. Yeah. It went to the wrong side. He went to the back side of the guy.
He back shouldered it on a corner. Route.
The guy ran by and it just went.
The non-12 man, right? Is that what it was?
Right, but yes, right before the 12-man goal line. But yeah, just really late hands. Fight the corner all the way, throw him up. Thielen's great at that too, and it's a great trait to have with Kirk Cousins, a guy who's going to give you a chance. Like if you show the ability to win,
sorry guys, I had to say
some contested catches. Like he's going to fire it. And that could play really well in the offense.
Heck yeah, man. I mean, that's what I think. I think another wide receiver, one that has that kind of potential and actually it can play like that, especially. You can see that from rookie wide receivers. Obviously, we've seen I already talked about Garrett Wilson and Olave. Like that's a player that you can potentially bring on your team right now who can immediately change your offense or change your team and make it better, which I don't really think it's possible to get a cornerback like that. But most of the time, like your cornerback's going to have to just get accustomed to the NFL and you're not going to find like Sauce Gardners everywhere. Even Derek Stingley. Obviously, I mean, he had an up and down season, but he was still pretty good.
Tariq Woolen had a huge year.
Tariq Woolen. He was a late round pick though.
Yeah.
Which is great, but you don't see that a lot. So that's why I'm like, if you were going to make your team better, like if we found a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1B potentially in the draft, we would be able to go in and have potentially like a top 5 offense. I think from a talent base, I think we do have definitely a top 10, but if we got another wide receiver, I think that could push it up to like a top 5. Trade Cook.
I think it's a trade Cook.
SK, thanks for dropping in. Appreciate it.
What's up, SK? Make sure you hit like #Skol to win a Justin Jefferson Rookie Card. One point of getting Najigba, I'm gonna say it because I say it perfectly. I'm sure I'm gonna go with Jackson. Drafting a Jackson is like we didn't need Randy Moss, we didn't need Adrian Peterson. Right. We had 2 good receivers. We had a 1,200, 1,300 running back. we didn't need them, but they made us so much better on that one side of the ball.
Yeah.
That, hey, sorry, B-Flow, I'm calling him now because apparently that's what he's called. B-Flow.
Dave's like,
I'm sorry we didn't get you anybody. We just want to make the offense better, but hey, they'll help you out.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, like a lot of people go by the BPA system where, like, if it's, because I think you see a lot where someone drafts for need and you end up overdrafting a player to position.
Right.
Instead of just going with the, hey, I mean, this guy isn't a need for us right now, but it's the best player out there. And
especially
it's going to help
impact your team right away, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
That's like huge. That's why like a wide receiver could do that for us compared to any other position. Obviously, I do think if we were able to get a stud defensive tackle of some sort, I do think that would be pretty.
There might be somebody I got up next.
Before we jump into that, though, I want to hit some of these comments here. Skol KJ was a fourth, correct? Yeah, he was a fifth. We went through that. Is that the guy that is always hurt? Talking about he is hurt, but then you said I was wondering because I heard a draft expert say that if he was healthy, he's a first round pick. It's really looking like he's going to be a first round pick at this point, I think.
Yeah.
Unless something happens in the offseason.
I had him. I see him as high as 20 right now.
Yeah.
So he might be out of reach. That's what I'm saying. If he drops to us, can we pass him up?
Running quarterback, running back, and a pass catching running back at slot. Pay none of them into a second contract. That's where the league is slowly headed towards. Moneyball. Running quarterback. Ty Chandler, yeah. Culpepper had small hands and put the ball on the ground nearly every game when defensive ends blew on him. I mean, there is probably something to be said about small hands as a quarterback, but I'm going to take production and skill over all that kind of stuff, even though it could be true. I didn't know Dante Culpepper had really small hands.
He was known for not having the biggest hands. But...
Well, Pickett has the smallest hands ever, right? Something like that. Plus gives us a chance. So, leaving now.
It was a cold day when they got him measured.
St. Brown could post similar numbers to JJ if an offense that used him similar. No. He's not JJ. He's not JJ. No matter what. I like St. Brown. He's not JJ. Yo, what's up, SK? We've already called you out on here. SK, actually, since we have you in here, SK, he is building a new. He was formerly the Purple Code. Now he's created a new media that we are all a part of called Purple and Skol. He has a super sweet logo being made right now.
I hope so.
It should be almost done here. He sent some pictures. It looks super sweet. He's going to release more on that as this offseason goes. I think pretty quick. He has some sort of plan with all of that. So be ready to hear about that and tap in and be ready to hear us tell you to go subscribe to that because that will be happening when everything goes down. JJ did. Oh, okay. That's David pass rush is defense. Philly got blocked, gave up 30. Yeah.
Sorry.
BPA.
I'm a big fan of this one. I'm a big fan of was it Bijan Robinson? That's a Texas kid, right?
Yeah.
Potentially a first round pick running back.
Yeah, he's really good.
I'm not a fan of doing it. I'm not a fan of him. Not a fan of doing it.
No. That would be. He's so good though. Like he's gonna go to a team and probably make them pretty good. But no, someone just released like the running. I just saw it. Like all the running backs who. Every team that won the Super Bowl in the last 10 years and who their running backs were. Yeah. And there was like, I think Leonard Fournette was probably the best one on that list with Buccaneers. So it is.
This last year, Jerick McKinnon and
Pacheco, who was 7th round pick.
And McKinnon was a 3rd round pick that year.
Those guys are first ballot.
Yeah. Cam Akers year before.
Like, let's shout out Jerick McKinnon here. Like, a guy that, here he was solid and he built. I mean, I know he went to, he got to sign that decent sized contract.
San Francisco, right?
Got hurt. Yep. But he's built a pretty solid career for himself. And
this was a great year for him.
It was. And for him, what a team player that guy was. It's gotta be difficult not to score a touchdown in a Super Bowl. To give that up so that your team has a better chance of winning. Pretty big.
And you have to make that choice every time, but you could just tell like he was a little frustrated, like, damn it. But what do you do? Obviously, winning a Super Bowl is way better
The
than
ring's
that.
more important than the touchdown.
Yeah,
And then
Super
Ponder
Bowl.
Classic Overreach. I may or may not still have a Ponder jersey sitting in my closet.
No,
And
your Ponder
just-
jersey has that tape on the 7, so it's
now
like
it's a Kirk Cousins jersey. Yeah, it was a Sam Bradford jersey for a while.
Ponder 17th. 17th.
What's that?
What's that?
Ponder drafted 17th overall.
12, wasn't he? 13th?
I think it was
12th,
earlier
13th?
than 17th. It was like, yeah, it was pretty early. That was
now
all.
I gotta go look. Now
That draft's the worst. That draft's the worst. It was like every Jake Locker, like every quarterback. There was like 5 quarterbacks drafted in the first 10 picks or 12 picks or something, and then every other player in it, like Aaron Donald was like pick 10. Every other player in it was turned in to be like franchise cornerstones for those teams.
Except for any of the quarterbacks. Well,
except for the quarterbacks. And Cam Newton was number 1.
Oh Jesus,
Cam
he was
Newton
the
and
12th
Andy
pick.
Dalton were the 2 most successful quarterbacks out of that draft. Don't even get me started on Taysom Hill. I cannot stand that man. All right, anyway.
Taysom Hill. He's going to the Broncos.
I hate Taysom Hill. Absolutely hate him. All right, moving on. Dave?
I like this guy. Now, I've seen CBS doesn't even have him in the top 200, which was insane. Well, I can't trust that. But I've seen him as high as in the like 50. But I think he's better than that. He can get at the quarterback. He's got moves in the center. I think he can move the pocket, man, and that's what I want. So especially my thought process here is just think how Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter would have been meeting at the quarterback if the quarterback was still there, because that quarterback wasn't able to step up at will, and that's why I need a guy like this. And how to find one. And this is a situation is if that guy that we don't want is not it, that guy we just can't pass up is not there at 23, that we may trade down not once, but 2 times in the second round and accumulate a couple 3s, 3 and a 4, whatever. And we take a guy like this if he doesn't kill it in the combine and jump into the first round. Yeah. That's what scares me about not having an opportunity to get him.
So he's your early sleeper.
And if we did get
I don't think he's a sleeper.
Well, I would say if you think, I would say like if he's like a second round or later, but you think he could be potential first rounder, I'd be like, that's a sleeper.
Well, lack of the position. I mean, I think he is the D tackle or the nose tackle in the draft right now, from what I've seen.
Yeah,
it's still early, but that's the guy I think is prototypical. Now he's maybe even a little undersized, 312 pounds, 6'4", but I think that adds to his ability to pass rush and not be like just completely a run stuff and nose tackle. But I think he's dangerous.
Yeah, and if the Vikings take him, he would have the opportunity to be in the same state as the Axe again. So double win right there.
No, I like that. I like that take, Dave, because and we don't necessarily need a gap-eating nose tackle. Harrison Phillips is a good run stopper. Right. The run defense was middling. That wasn't the big issue. It could improve for sure, but I think like Dave touched on, it was interior pressure that was lacking. And when the offense was able to key on Danielle, I mentioned they sent double teams Danielle's way like crazy. We weren't able to make him pay. And whether or not Dalvin Tomlinson's back, that's probably a coin flip. But I think even if he does come back, a guy like Benton would be a great late down defensive tackle. Great in like second and medium where they might run, but you might also want to take some generate some pressure as well. Like I think he might not be a first down base package starter, especially right away, and especially if Dalvin does come back. But I think and we've seen how important like a pass rush rotation is, or even just a defensive line rotation. Like having a guy like this with a versatile skill set who can push the pocket, regardless of his snap share, I think would be really valuable to the group. Yeah,
huge chance with Brian Flores in there and with all his blitz packages. That's like one thing. That's like an area that I don't know, like how you don't really move defensive tackles around. They're kind of just like in the same spot every single time. So if you can get like a player like that can get to get to the quarterback, I think that's huge. Just because
Mhm.
he's just going to be there every single play. You can make blitz packages around those players, especially in a 3-4. So I think it's that, like Casey and Dave, they've been talking about all offseason how they think that's probably the most underrated need going into this offseason
Like I even
and into
like
the drafts. And I agree, especially with Flores now. And I mean, if we can just add a guy that can get pressure on the quarterback from the interior defense,
mhm.
Man, that's gonna make all the blitz packages and everything else that Flores brings just 10 times better.
Yeah, I even like taking a stab at Hargrave. I think that'd be a great investment.
Yeah. Hargrave. I think Hargrave, and then people are talking about Payne a lot from Washington.
That'd
So
be cool.
either of those guys.
Yeah, he can generate some pressure as well. He's got some moves, but he might be more of an every down kind
type
of
of guy. Yeah.
He would be great.
So do you think if we were to go after one of those guys for defensive tackles, do you think that would mean we don't re-sign Delvin Tomlinson? Do you think it would be more of like a replacement move?
I think the Deron Payne would kind of just be a 1-for-1 upgrade as far as skill set goes. Just because I think they're similar players, but Deron Payne is just a little younger and a little better. Obviously significantly younger, but a little better.
Here's my take with Dalvin is that he's costing us $7 million even if he doesn't come back with us. So if he comes back with us, he's going to be cost us even more than that because of the cap hit we've already taken with him.
It would be a multi-year extension, I think.
Right. So we'd have to sign him for a couple years to even that out a little bit.
Yep.
So, but if we let him go and he signs for 10 million plus, 10 million for, how many years with some other team, we got a 3rd round pick coming our way.
Yep.
Potentially.
True.
So I just see no ups. I love him. I like him. I think he played his heart out when he
was our best
was
defensive tackle, no question.
He was the best guy on the D line for us this past year when he was playing.
Right.
But I see a higher upside of letting him go by far. And then in getting a guy, like I just said, he's playing out of position at DN, man. He's he's a 3-4 defense. He's a 4-3 defensive tackle, in my opinion. I don't know if I'm off there, but that's the way I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy we've kind of seen be relatively effective as far out as like a 5-tech when 2020, when it was just he was the only guy even getting pressure. They'd throw him on the edge. But it's not something where and he may have lost that step by now. Even he's getting to late 20s.
I think he's 28, 29.
Yeah,
29 probably.
And Payne, like I said, would be an apples to apples. Like that's a straight up upgrade. Let him walk, bring his upgrade in, fill that role right back up. A guy like Hargrave, I think, might leave the door open a little bit. Say you completely strike out. And Dalvin's still willing to come back. Maybe it is a couple year deal and you fill that void. But I think that's something you could also find in the draft, especially if you bring in a guy like Hargrave. Harrison Phillips is still making a decent amount of money, pushing 10 mil this season. I think it's 9 something. So when you just think about like,
by the way, Dalvin he just turned 28.
Okay.
No, hold it. No, he turns 29 the 28th of February.
Yeah, so this will be his age 29 season, I guess.
Yeah, age 29 season.
But Phillips is still making a decent figure. I'd love for them to bring back Chris Tonga. I think he was a great.
Yeah, I think he's
did well in his.
Him and Shelly, man. They made
Shelly Tonga. Yeah,
Jamie,
I was excited when they got Tonga.
Yeah, they both came from the Bears too, by the way.
Yes, yeah.
Which is the cherry on top,
And we could get another Bears guy if they go nose and take that Siaki Ika. He's 350 plus.
Which it would be nice to have some big size on the defensive. That's what we were missing last year. We didn't really have even Harrison Phillips. Like he's kind of more of like that hybrid than he is just like a Linval Joseph type dude that can just stuff a running back.
He's just like a savvy run stopper. He's not just like a brute guy who's gonna eat a double team, but he's really stout and he's smart the way he
Yeah, when we got him, I described him as very disciplined, gap integrity, takes on the block. He's a workman, he doesn't care if other people get the tackle.
Yeah, he's very selfless.
That was the kind of guy. And I thought he was a downgrade from Pierce.
Oh yeah. But I think it was, you know, a similar production, at least, especially when you consider his durability compared to Pierce. When you're moving off of an injury riddled guy with a higher ceiling, you know, I guess there were and I didn't keep tabs on him too much in Baltimore, but yeah, it might be kind of a wash, I suppose, there. But you're still sitting with him there, so I think if you bring in a guy like Hargrave, that probably shuts the door on Dalvin, just from like an allocation of resources standpoint. The way the front office would think about it.
But if we don't have Hargrave or Payne, if we don't get any of those guys, it's like we should definitely keep Delvin Tomlinson around.
I could see him. Well, I think you've got to get another veteran in the mix
somewhere, somehow. We can't go into the next season with the same thing with defensive line.
Kind of the same thing with corner. You got to get a veteran presence in there just to stabilize 100%. Things.
Yep.
John, let me ask you this: since we're talking about defensive linemen, and we got one, and we drafted one last year, and his name's Sezi Otomewu from Minnesota.
Again, I think in the longest arms in the draft.
Yeah, yeah, and he had one move in college. I think he used it and it worked, but it was in college. So, do you think he can step up and be a 3-4 defensive end? Yeah, that's what he is. He's not a 4-3 DN. He's a 3-4. So we drafted appropriately. Right. Yes. Can this guy step up, make a jump?
I think so.
I think he started to at the end of last season. Actually,
we
had a few
started seeing playing time.
Some bright spots out of him for sure towards the end of the season.
Yep, I watched a lot of him when those last 2, it might have been 3 games that KOC was vocal about. Hey, we're working more guys into the mix and getting some guys some more snaps. They weren't straight up resting starters, but they were giving them some time off. And that was when Otomewu got some time, and I personally thought he looked really good. I thought he was great laterally. There were a couple of screen plays that he snuffed out, just kind of reading the guard's footwork, following him out to the flat and making a jump there. He's got great athleticism from the position. And I also think he's very, just given his physique and athletic profile and his skill set, I think he's a great fit for the way Brianflores likes to operate in that. I think he's very versatile, and you could kind of put him anywhere across the front without tipping anything to the offense. I think he can really actually play anywhere from 1 to 5 tech and do it effectively. I don't think you necessarily want him inside the guard too much, but you think about a 3-5 technique kind of guy who maybe it's base looks, but maybe it's more so than it's pass rushing downs, but maybe it's the opposite. I mean, like Dave said, he wasn't a refined pass rusher coming out of college, but I think he's got a lot of tools. And if like I mentioned, longest arms in the draft, like I think that helps him just as much in the run defense as it does pushing the pocket. Just being able to kind of stave off an offensive lineman with that length, and he's a strong guy. He's pushing 290. Just a really exciting athletic profile, I think, for Flores to work with.
Yeah.
So hopefully.
Yeah, he's someone that like you said, with the long arms, he's a guy with that high potential. Obviously, we're gonna root for him too. Gopher boy or whatever. So you got to. So he's someone that hopefully he can step up. And it was nice to kind of see those bright spots out of him towards the end of the season.
Well, that's the biggest thing. Last year we drafted a lot of high energy,
and we were kind of doing that with Spielman as well. Which we did need that. Brian Asamoah, obviously,
Lewis Cine, honest, like Lewis. I think Lewis Cine, if the ankle, which looks like it's going to be healed up pretty nicely, man. If Flores can just unlock Lewis Cine.
They valued acceleration a lot in the draft, just like the 10-yard split. Like almost everyone they drafted was 80th, 90th percentile in the 10-yard split.
And we're seeing we need that now with how slow our defense was.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned Scene. We didn't touch on him when we were talking cornerbacks. I think the whole safety room. You already mentioned Harrison. Like the whole safety room is going to benefit with Flores. You think about like they did a lot of 3 safety packages as far back as New England with like Deron Harmon, Devin McCourty, Patrick Chung. He was part of bringing Javon Holland in Miami. Guys like Eric Rowe.
We're supposed to do that with the 2022 Vikings. Didn't happen.
Yeah. He likes to blitz his safeties. Kid out of Texas, Brandon Jones, blitzes like crazy for a safety. And he played around with Terrell Edmonds in Pittsburgh this season. So I think he's going to have a lot of fun with the safety group, and especially Lewis Scene using his speed
and his hitting ability.
Whether you leave him single high and have him jump in routes or have him try to erase a tight end or bring him off the edge in the pressure package. Like I think there's a lot of ways you can use him and Harrison. And I think the two of them will really be the cruxes of the defensive disguise. And that's what Harrison should have been this season. Like you kind of mentioned briefly, Jamie.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, that's what I'm excited about Flores, dude. And it's the aggressive thing. Obviously, anytime, if a season goes one way, which this one was very soft on defense, you immediately want it to be a 360 and go the complete opposite direction. Obviously, and that's what we did. KOC obviously wanted that. So I'm super excited about the Flores thing, and like what you just mentioned with Scene. Now, you forget about Scene because his injury, and you forgot all about this first round pick, and we still didn't get to see. Because everybody was excited, especially that, he was talking about stacking bodies and all that good stuff. It's like, man, we were just ready for it, and we just did not get to see it because he only played on special teams until he got injured. And, with the stacking body thing with a guy like Flores and the blitz packages, all that stuff, man, it sounds like music to my ears. So I can't wait for that. I want to bring up this of Ezra, or no, not the Ezra Cleveland thing, which is a good point though. The Cook to Miami and whatever. Everybody's
Delvin
talking
Cook
about
is
this.
Not
Cook
getting traded. Nobody. 28-year-old running back, bad contract, shoulder surgery. If he why would Miami trade for him? If he gets cut, where do you think he's going to want to go? If Miami wants him, they will get him in free agency because he's from Miami.
Yeah, that's why people are probably saying that. Xavier Howard. I just have a hard time thinking that we get Xavier Howard out of this. I know Xavier.
I have a hard time thinking we get anything out of it.
Well, I guess Xavier Howard had a bad year, right?
But nobody's going to trade for Delvin Cook. It's just, like
31.
Maybe if we take on some of his contract, I definitely think that Cook is still an asset. He still had over 1,000 yards in a Pro Bowl,
but not a tradable asset though.
Maybe.
Well, all you need is two people with cap space competing.
Cook saves under $6 million now. $33 million dead cap hit to the Dolphins if they move on from Howard this year. There's a potential out after this season where I think that number goes down to like 23 dead cap, but like he's still got 3 or 4 more years left on his contract. I think he's through 2026 right now. There is the Flores connection, so I'm sure that's kind of the reference there. And I think he even commented on it was like an Instagram post of the Flores hiring that Xavier Howard commented on with like a fire emoji or something. That people were talking about, but
okay, I missed that. That makes a little bit more sense because obviously Xavier Howard's a great cornerback. I don't even actually know how well he played this season. With Dave said he didn't have the best season. Miami's defense in general was getting scored on a lot, but Miami was also putting up a lot of points on the other side.
Yeah,
so
this feels like a pretty mutually like negligible trade to me, at least right now. Like 2 years ago, this would have been nuts. But I think both players are sort of in a place, especially Dalvin with the surgery. That's going to make teams so hesitant, I feel like.
Right.
But, I think it's almost possible just because of the deflated value of Howard right now, I think. But this would probably be something where it's, Cook and probably multiple picks to get Howard and for both teams to sort of take a pretty significant dead cap hit, much more so for the Dolphins. So would be cool from an X's and O's perspective, especially for us, but mathematically it's a little tough.
Yeah, I agree. Again, everybody, Justin Jefferson Rookie Card, hashtag Skol in the chat. We'll be giving this away pretty quick here. We got a couple more players we want to talk about, including the guy John really likes, and that is Zay Flowers. So what's your guys' thoughts on Zay Flowers? What's that, Dave?
I did that on Valentine's Day. It was just a coincidence. One of my listeners says, "Hey, could you do Zay Flowers?" Just so happened to be Valentine's Day. I'm like, all right.
So what's your thoughts on Zay Flowers, John? Why do you like him?
I just think he's really dynamic. As far as like his kind of,
he's Jalen Reagor, but good.
Yeah, that was a good.
I was when you said dynamic, I'm like, that's what Jalen Reagor is supposed to do.
He has
Jalen Reagor's highlights, college highlights, are insane.
Yes.
I'm like, how does this guy not turn out? But
yes, I think he has a more refined route tree than Reagor. I think
there's a video of him at the Shrine Bowl, practice and showing his route running. So it's kind of showing like he can do it.
Yep, and he has. I listened to a 15-minute interview of Zay Flowers as well, where Bill O'Brien was one of the coaches out at the bowl, and for that reason they were prognosticating maybe a Patriots fit for him. But he was just talking about some of the things they ran schematically with Bill at practice and sort of his reads on those things, and it was really high level stuff. He's a really, really sharp guy. So I think even off the field, I think he'll interview really well in the draft process. But he's also like, he's one of those guys. He did not have much help in college this year at Florida State. He was underthrown consistently. So some of his highlights are him adjusting to like a terrible ball and still making something out of the play, which, you know, it makes you watch those things and you're like, man, if somebody could put it on the numbers, like this guy would be making even more plays.
I noticed he didn't go to the bowl. He went to a bowl as a freshman, but never went to a bowl his other 3 years. But his production in his sophomore, junior, and senior year are great. He big play, 17 yards per catch in his sophomore and junior year. Went down to 13, but he got over 1,000 yards and almost doubled his receptions his senior year.
Well, I know before I was talking about before we hopped on this podcast is after when people are starting to make like their early draft mock drafts and stuff, like their way too early mock drafts after the last year's draft. I'm pretty sure I saw Zay Flowers is the number one wide receiver on most people's boards at the time. Obviously, he just didn't. I don't like. You said he had 9 drops this season, or
someone had said that he dropped 9 balls this past year. Obviously, I don't know that from watching highlight films, but he was a Blitnikoff finalist, and I think I see him as high as ranked as 6th in the receiver category. I think that puts him in the 2nd round. I don't know, but who knows? Maybe somebody doesn't like him, he goes into the 3rd, but I would think he's a 2nd rounder. Just because of his, big play ability. The guy's a lightning bug. I mean, he's quick.
Which
makes
we
people
have
look
room
silly.
for that kind of player on our offense. Like we don't have that just super speedy. Like Jalen Reagor is kind of. We would use Jalen Reagor different. I don't know. Maybe Jalen. Ever since Jalen Reagor cost Kirk Cousins those 2 interceptions, it was like, all right, well, like you shouldn't be taking plays off if you're not even in the starting lineup. I don't know why you're doing that. So I was like, all right, whatever. But before that, it's like, man, you got this guy with this just a different skill set than anyone else on our team that you can make your offense a little bit more dynamic with. And because Justin Jefferson can pretty much do it all, but Justin Jefferson's not the fastest guy in the NFL or fastest wide receiver in the NFL. And we don't really have any wide receiver that's just other than potentially Jalen Naylor. But I don't know. I just think it's something that could just add something we don't have already. And that's like another reason other than that, like someone like him, or it would be that deep threat that Jalen Naylor could be. I think those are what we're kind of missing in the wide receiver room is either a deep threat or this athletic guy that can get, make something out of a short pass or,
the thing is, that's how he was used, but there's commentary out there that says, and there's video proof of it, of him going up and getting the ball.
Right.
And fighting for catches, which is, something you wouldn't think from a guy that's like 5'9", 5'10".
Yeah, and I know Sky Moore. We didn't see a ton of that from Sky Moore this year. But Sky Moore was that guy. Sky Moore was the small guy who could catch with the best of them, with all the taller wide receivers. And he's a guy that came into this season. I feel like we didn't really see that out of Sky Moore, especially when you have a quarterback like Mahomes. So I don't know, the short wide receiver thing, as far as being like a potential deep threat, kind of scares me a little bit. But I mean, hopefully, I think at like the worst, he would be able to be kind of that spark plug. But if he ends up being, obviously turns into like an all around good receiver, that would be just.
Yeah, Dante, he is at Boston College. I didn't want to correct my guest in mid conversation. So yeah, East Coast Gridiron in the house.
I was looking at the Seminole logo. Did I say Florida State?
Oh God, I put Florida State logo on there. Jesus, I'm embarrassed, man. No wonder people didn't watch this video.
You tried blaming it on John.
I knew it was Boston College, man. I have no idea why I put a Florida State logo on there.
I was gonna say Boston College earlier, and then John
I'm embarrassed.
State, and I was like, thank God.
Dante, I knew it was Boston College. I put Boston College in my video. Sorry about that, man. Thanks for correcting that. I can't believe I got that logo up there. If you go watch my video, I'm showing Boston College. I'm saying Boston College. I got an F in Florida State logo on there. I am so stupid. Hey, Dante, thank you. You can give me a lot of crap tomorrow when you're on our show.
That did throw me off.
Take it down. I'm embarrassed now.
We'll just move on to the next guy.
We like Zay Flowers. We like
this guy's a Clemson Tiger.
Last thing on Zay Flowers. Dave mentioned Rager, but good. One other comp I like is Brandon Cooks with a little bit more juice after the catch.
Which I like that.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
That could be a more like high end outcome for him. But But I sort of saw that in like the sub 6 foot deep threat. But still a pretty good all around receiver, could probably play on the outside. Pretty well, just given his speed and shiftiness off a press. But yeah, I kind of like that as a high end, high ceiling comp almost.
Okay, I like that. Because that's a good point. Because how tall is Brandon Cooks?
He might be listed 5'11".
Yeah, I think he is. Like maybe he like put 5'11" on there, but. We all know everyone's like a couple inches shorter than that.
5'10". 5'10" is what he's listed
5'10". So yeah, he's a great example of one of these smaller wide receivers that can kind of go out and do that, play like that.
And people are going to say, "Oh, we don't have a
Percy Harvin and Brandon Cooks in the Vikings offense." That
JW Senior Insurance. He's the guy that asked me to do the Zay Flowers video. I'm sorry, I don't know why I put that logo Florida State, but this is the guy that asked me to do Zay Flowers. Yeah. Stand corrected. I don't know why I put that logo Boston College.
Percy Harvin, Brandon Cooks combo. That sounds pretty damn good to me.
That's what I said in my video. Was like, hey, Zay Flowers could be that Percy Harvin for us. I think this guy's even a little more shiftier, but Percy Harvin had that straight out speed. I think that.
By the way, I hate to I really hate to call out our listeners here, but because this guy, he watches all the time, but Clemson players over it, other than Trevor, who has been good or great. You wanted us to trade for T. Higgins earlier? T. Higgins was a Clemson Tiger.
Mike Williams
was a Clemson Tiger. So Clemson produces some pretty good football players. Again, not trying to call you up. We appreciate you joining. But just had
also,
the
next best cornerback in the NFL, Andrew Booth Jr. He was a Clemson guy.
Don't forget about Andrew Booth.
But no, I think to your question though, Trevor Lawrence, I would say he's definitely been good instead of great, but obviously second year plays for Jacksonville, and he really put the team on his back at the end of the season to bring them into postseason and win a game in postseason. I think Trevor Lawrence did take a good step in the right direction, and he definitely still has that chance to be that elite quarterback that everybody was expecting him to be. At least, yeah.
Dante says Percy Harvin's way better than Zay Flowers. I did say Zay Flowers was better than Percy Harvin, just to be clear. I said Percy Harvin has more of that straight out speed than Zay Flowers.
But there might be like a little.
Percy Harvin could play running back too if you wanted to.
Yeah, there might be like a little taste of Percy in Flowers, but Percy was something else. Percy was in more of he was that Tyreek Hill echelon where it's just like, just from an athletic standpoint, like there's no answer.
Yeah,
I'm not going to comp anybody when Dante's in the chat because I know he'll take me to school. This is the man that went down the Senior Bowl, so that's why I'm got him on the show tomorrow.
Clemson player is drafted by the Vikings. Okay, fair.
Okay, Clemson. Yeah. All right, we're good now.
Well, I brought this linebacker up. I haven't even done a video on him. I only watched a little bit of video. He just happens to be on my slideshow because I was going to do a video on him. But he looked like he played outside linebacker the whole time. But I don't think that matters with this guy. I think he's one of those ball hawking type of players, and he blitzes a lot. Or a lot of his highlights for him blitzing the quarterback. And I thought this kind of guy fits in the Flores defense that he might look at him. I just don't want to, honestly, I don't want to draft a linebacker that high. But hey, I'm looking at guys that are potentially in that area. And if we get rid of Hicks, if we get rid of, Kendricks, well, we need to address it in the draft. And, this guy, I think the listing I saw him, he was the second rated linebacker. But I think he can play middle. I think he can play, he can move around. And according to Flores' mindset, he likes guys that can play multiple areas, multiple positions.
Yeah, I haven't seen as much of Trenton Simpson as I'd like to before the draft. But from what I have, I do think it would be a good fit because when he plays off ball, and from what I've seen and heard is he is sort of a trigger man on that defense, a good blitzer, and strikes me as pretty athletic. We'll see how he tests out and everything, but you do want. I don't think you'll need as much out of your linebackers from like a cover ground perspective, where I don't think as much will be asked of them just over the middle of the field where it's hey, you've got all the crowd, like Jordan Hicks and Eric Kendricks were kind of left on an island. I think these guys will be able to play a little bit more downhill, which will be awesome for Asamoah. And I think Simpson's is comparable in that he's a strong downhill blitzer, an explosive athlete, and has a pretty good feel for those kind of things. Probably will need to fine tune some of the more mental processing kind of things.
He looked to me like a hair on fire type player.
Yeah, exactly.
He gets after the ball. He's seek and destroy.
Yep.
Which we like. We like those kind of players. But obviously,
him and Asamoah, if they're both like that, that could be huge.
I really looked at him as an Asamoah type player. Maybe a little bit stronger.
He's a little taller, at least. Like I think
he's a little bit bigger.
He could probably play a little bit of edge in a pinch. Like he's almost a Parsons build, like he could play off-ball linebacker. He probably is heavy enough to rush the passer on late downs.
6'3".
Yeah.
What they're putting him at.
He didn't look that tall, honestly. But yeah, I guess that's pretty cool. That's good.
235.
I haven't done my video yet, so
yeah,
Okay.
So he's in that kind of category. Probably, very unlikely he'll test out as the kind of athlete that Parsons is. But I think he's a guy you could move around and use his frame in a more versatile way, whether that's blitzing the A gaps or coming off the edge.
Like if Zadarius Smith gets hurt, or he can move around, and that's why my thought process would be with Flores and potentially getting a guy like this. And I really do think we're going to be trading down and accumulating picks. I just don't see us not doing that unless someone there is we absolutely love. And I don't think this is a guy that we're going to be absolutely in love with. I just put him out there because he's going to be in that area picking, and who knows, maybe we do fall in love with this guy.
Yeah. I think I don't just from a positional value standpoint. I don't think there's any way they stick and pick and go with an off-ball linebacker at 23.
No.
But you know, if he's like falls to early second, and that's one of the picks they traded down for, I could squint and see it. Because I think he could be a difference maker in the right system. But I do want to dig into Trenton Simpson a little bit more. He seems to be a lot of people's linebacker one in this class. You know,
the list I took him off was he was LB2, but yeah, it's just random listing.
Yeah. So he's up there anyway. But
anyway, we've almost been going for an hour and 20, almost an hour and a half here. So maybe Jamie, you want to last minute call out the hashtag Skol for the giveaway and get that rolling?
Yeah. Where did it go? Yep. Again, guys, hashtag Skol in the chat to win this Justin Jefferson rookie card. All we ask is for you to like this video and subscribe to the channels. All that information is in the links below in the description. So you all should go do that. Hashtag Skol in the chat. But yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, you know, we started this with Brian Flores and him in his press conference with KOC. We'll kind of end it with that. What is your guys' final thoughts about? I'll start with Dave on this one. So what is your final thoughts with Brian Flores now, especially from coming from, you were in 100% Brian Flores coming into the decision. How do you feel about him now? Where are you at?
Well, initially I was kind of blinded by the lack of production by his defenses 2 of the years he was at Miami. And I realized later that for some reason he made the decision not to be the play caller in those 2 years.
Yeah.
But the 2 years I believe he was the play caller, one in the Patriots in the Super Bowl and the one in the second year in Miami, they were outstanding and caused a lot of turnover. So once someone woke me up to that, it opened me up to hearing him. And now the fact that he said the right things that Donatel could not get out of his mouth is like, I'm going to put players in the right, I'm going to put players where they're going to be successful. Not, hey, I'm going to, my defense is awesome. You'll like it this week. You know, I think he's got a better head on his shoulders. I think he's got better chemistry with the head coach. I'm more in tune with it. And if he's a rental, that means our defense was awesome this year. So that him going to another, that kind of set me back a little bit. I want that, younger guy up and coming,
right?
Someone to, that maybe will be with us 2-3 years. But hey, if this guy's successful with 1 year with the offense we could put out there, damn, who knows what could happen this year.
Right. And then the compensation picks, if he was to leave us to go to head coach, at least it doesn't put us in a too bad of a position.
And I like that too. I guess what is that? Have we figured that out?
It's for sure. It could be. I read 3rd round pick for 2 years is what I read, but my guess is at least a 3rd round pick.
Do it.
Yeah, I mean, if we can get 2 3rd round picks, I'm cool with it. I mean, we didn't get any for Ed Donatel, and he was only here for 1 year. What do you think, John? What's your final thoughts on Flores in the press conference today?
Yeah, I like to think of that kind of introductory press conference as sort of an echo of how the meeting went when Flores interviewed for this job. Like the way he answered questions, I think is reflective of how he answered questions in the interview to get this job. So I think we saw where he and Kevin O'Connell and obviously all the way up to the top, where those guys aligned philosophically. And I think that's going to be a really important thing going forward for the staff. Like Flores, one of my favorite things Flores said was, I know Kevin O'Connell's known as an offensive head coach, but after our meeting, I'll tell you right now, he could coach some defense too.
Yeah, I did like that.
So I like hearing that about Kevin, because when you're the head coach, you're like the coach manager, right? You've got to put a staff together, and you've got to make sure that it fires on all cylinders. And I think, again, just going away from the dogmatic, just passive defense, the rigid scheme that we came from last year to a more, and he stressed he wants guys to have fun, to a more free-flowing, multiple kind of scheme that's going to put guys in advantageous positions for them, instead of saying, hey, let's get this guy as good as we can at what we want to do, regardless of what his current skill set is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just excited to see what he does with the pieces that are here. And it sounds like he's interested in a lot of these pieces that we already have. So I'm glad that there is a way this all kind of played out, that I think a lot of these vets are going to stick around and be given another opportunity to function at a high level in a good defense. And this defense only needs to get to like middle of the pack for this to be a contender.
I would say not. I would say top 20.
Top 20 would be nice. That'd be a good step forward. But
if they check in at 20, if we have the 20th ranked defense, we beat the Giants.
There's no question. There's no question.
Probably don't beat San Francisco, but we beat the Giants.
Well, maybe San Francisco if
we're causing turnovers and we're winning the time of possession battle with our offense, the defense could easily be a top, above a top 20 defense if we're, again, causing turnovers like he did at Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're winning the possession battle.
Heck yeah. Casey, do you have any final thoughts?
Skol Flores.
I
like everything, man. He was kind of one of the guys that, when they first said they bringing him in for an interview, which means if he's coming in for the interview, he's obviously interested, right?
Right.
When we heard that, I'm like, that's it. That's our guy. Like, we need him. Like, just he's younger. And I think the biggest thing is, I don't know if we talked about it in this stream yet. The biggest thing is who he coached with. Yeah. He's coached with Bill Belichick and he's coached with Mike Tomlin. Like,
best
at least in our generation,
NFL,
two of the probably
of all time.
Yeah, longest. Are those the two longest tenured coaches in the league right now too?
Yeah, they would have to be. But I mean, if you think back, history maybe, but just in our generation, that's coach 1 and 2 of all time. Like, who's better? And the guy that's won all the Super Bowls, and the guy who won 2 Super Bowls but hasn't had a losing season.
Still no losing seasons.
Yeah, that is insane. How we turned that team around this year to get a no losing season again.
And maybe Mike Tomlin's even like, hey, follow my path. 1 season as Vikings defensive coordinator, Hall of Fame head coach. Go do it.
And that's what he told them too. That's what he said. Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
But no, there's no question, man. Flores was like, as soon as we fired Ed Donatel, or actually as soon as the offseason started for us, it was kind of like the Flores came up. And for me, as a Viking fan, it was like, we're not going to be the team that gets Flores, probably, especially if there's head coach positions out there, stuff like that. So I was surprised at the end. I was surprised when he actually officially hired him. I thought it was just gonna be another one of those things where you just like, I hope we get a guy like that. And just like you said, like face value, we just don't really get those face value guys a lot, where it's like obvious Flores, he's the biggest name coming into a defensive coordinator spot coming into the offseason, and we end up landing him. And like what you said with the Belichick tree, and then coaching under Tomlin as well, you can't learn from any coaches better than that at all.
But I also think that him passing up on Arizona, he said, like, I just loved what was here. I also think him passing up on Arizona could be like, that's a bad spot. Like, you're going to go into that season, your first season is going to be a losing season. You're behind the 8 ball. And then you're already, next season you have Kyler, who knows if he's going to get along with Kyler. He didn't get along with Tua. So I think it's one of those things where he's like, I would rather go be a defensive coordinator for a team where I know the coach and I think he's got a good thing going there. And hell, coach there for 2 years maybe, but if that, and then after that, maybe even 1 year, and go find a better opportunity than the Arizona Cardinals, who are going to not be very good this year.
Yeah, that was my first thought when he had, him trying to get rid of Tua, and I'm like, what is he going to do when Kyler Murray tells him to F off on the sidelines?
Go play some Call of Duty, right? Yeah, man, I don't know. I'm excited about it. It's definitely like, it's good to get. I was worried once. What's his name? Aviro. Once he was gone, I was like, Flores is going to be gone. Denver's looking at him, and Denver has already really good pieces on their defense. And then the head coaching thing, I was like, obviously, all of us were like, oh, we're getting.
So were you one of the guys that was saying, "Suck it, Jamie"?
Suck it, haters. We got him.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%, dude. the Sean Payton stuff pissed me off big time. Like him not letting Evero interview with us. We're all pissed. And then, but then him wanting Flores and Flores end up going to the Vikings. We won. We won that battle. That's
what flipped me completely 100%.
Yeah.
We stuck it to Sean Payton.
Sean Payton. You're going to do us dirty.
Sean Payton's
going to interview other coaches instead of you had Evero still on the coaching staff, and you were interviewing other coaches, but you weren't letting other people.
That's crap. When you're interviewing other coaches, but not letting him.
And you cost a first and a third round pick just for Denver to get too. So I'm glad you didn't get your.
Freaking Sean Payton. Yeah, Sean Payton beat us one time. Sure, let him do a Super Bowl, but after that, we've had his number pretty much.
Yeah.
So
Minneapolis Miracle, bitch.
Nope. The Kyle Rudolph push off.
Kyle Rudolph. Yeah, I was just gonna say.
But there is no better moment watching a Sean Payton coach team than the NFC Championship game the game against the Rams. I don't know if it was. I don't think was it. Yeah, it was the NFC Championship.
Oh yeah, when that pass interference.
Oh, the very obvious pass interference call.
But
miss. But so great.
Anyway,
Jamie, should we run
Kamara eating candy on the sidelines going,
oh, Jesus. Goal chant and everything.
All right, so let's run this giveaway. I'll actually any more #Skol to win a Justin Jefferson rookie card. I'm gonna run it at 9:40 Central Time.
Exactly.
As soon as it hits 40, it's being ran.
What push off he says.
#Skol in the chat.
Clean ball. Let him play.
18.
19. 5, 4, 3.
Wait, hold up 1 second.
Yeah, you're in. Skol.
Well, hit #Skol and you're in.
He said he couldn't do it. We'll use Dave's as his when Dave put it in. Dave will
put in like 50.
I'm pretty sure.
Which Dave? I put in 4.
You can only have
4 different.
Oh, that's true. Your Minnesota Sports Talk one. That'll be for him because he's on all the time. So we'll help him out.
Welcome in, Sarah. Oh, all right. We're running it. Oh, we got 2. All right, let's go.
I
didn't see him, by the way.
David
Michelson. David Michelson. David, are you there? We will need whoever wins has to kind of be in the chat because I need to get a hold of them.
Well, I mean, he listens to me all the time.
Okay.
He listens to me all the time.
David Michelson. Well, either way, congratulations. I know Bendito's always in here. I know Skol's always in here. You guys will win one of these soon. I promise everybody ends up winning one eventually, especially if you guys are always in here like you are, and we appreciate it big time. I'm going to make sure you guys get one.
There he is. He's in there. David, yes.
Hey, David. I don't know if you follow us on Twitter or this is rigged. Well, it doesn't help that you can't even get in right now, but we'll make sure you keep having your chances, man. We got you for sure. David, you follow us on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or anything like that, because that's how I will probably have you get a hold of us through the DMs. So we can get your mailing address. What's that?
Yeah, just hit us up on Twitter.
Yeah, hit us up on Twitter.
GG Sports
we'll get
Podcast.
Your mailing address and we'll send that card out to you right away.
Yeah, but anyway, John, thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
it was a good show. Good to talk about Brianflores, and now we get into the fun. Now we get into the fun stuff, and that's
free agency
first.
See what happens.
Which is crazy. It's almost like there's more. It's almost like there's more content in the off season than there is talking about the regular season, and I'm ready for it. So everybody who hopped in here, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next week on the Skol Experience.
Skol Vikes.
Skol, baby.